Hello everybody, my name is Brandon. Welcome back to Cinefessions, where we talk all things media. So I am here today to rank and review the 3 movies that ended up on my March TBW list. So if you guys watched it, you remember it was a boutique label month. So we had my Asylum pick, Criterion Collection pick, and Vinegar Syndrome pick here with AE Apocalypse Earth, Repo Man, and Luther the Geek. So it was a fun boutique month, and I use Asylum and boutique label very loosely together, but you know what I mean. So it was a fun month, and I am looking forward to talking about these. Did they live up to the kind of expectations I had in my head? Well, we'll talk about it here in just a minute. If you guys do have a second though, please hit that like button down below. That really does help me out. But with that said, let's not waste any more time at all. Let's dive right in to my rank and review of my March TBW films. So coming in at number 3, the one I enjoyed the least last month has to be my Vinegar Syndrome pick, which, if you guys have watched the channel, that probably isn't too big of a surprise. My Vinegar Syndrome movies that I've purchased and finally am getting around to, I haven't loved most of them, unfortunately, but Luther the Geek from 1989, this one is directed by Carlton Albright. So this isn't a terrible movie by any stretch of the imagination. It's just, oh my God, does this thing slow down so much in the second half? It's just, it made it like unbearably slow in the second half. There is this like 15 to 20 minute little chase sequence that happens entirely in a dark barn where a cop is trying to chase down our main character here. And that's it. It's just those 2 people. Maybe a third person enters at one point, but like it is the slowest thing ever. And it just goes like 4 times too long for it to like maintain my interest in it. So that alone really killed this movie for me. But anyway, I'm jumping way ahead. Let me talk about what this is. So Luther the Geek here is our main character. So at the very beginning of the movie, if you don't know, a geek is someone who like bites the head off of chickens, I guess, or just animals in general, like at a circus way back when. And at the beginning of the movie, this group of like townsfolk, I guess, go into the circus where our current geek is like chained up, and they egg him on to, you know, eat the head of the chicken or bite the head of the chicken off. While they're there, Luther, who is a kid at this point, gets shoved accidentally into like the cage that he's the geek is in, and that messes up his front teeth really bad. And I guess that is what prompts him to become like Luther the Geek. It's so ridiculous, but whatever. It is what it is. So then we jump however many years forward, and Luther is in prison, but they are trying to get him out. And for whatever reason, which makes absolutely 0 sense whatsoever, they decide that he's rehabilitated and they want him to be free back into society, which is just absurd because the man doesn't even talk. He like clucks like a chicken, and that's it. So I don't know if he just put on a good show or what, but like, it's just, you got to suspend your disbelief a little bit because it's the most ridiculous, like, of all the people in their prison system to let go, they let go this murderer, which makes, he's like cannibalistic, and it makes no sense at all. Anyway, he gets out of prison and goes about doing exactly what got him in there. In the first place, he wants to, eat the blood, drink blood from people, and he thinks he's a chicken. The whole thing is just so weird. And so basically he ends up kind of honing in on this one person's house, and he it's like a woman there, takes her hostage, ties her up in the bed, and then her college-aged daughter and her boyfriend show up. And so then all 3 of them are kind of, engaged with Luther the Geek. And that's pretty much the entire film is, are they going to get out alive or not? A police officer joins the fray at one point, and the police officer is who's chasing Luther the Geek through the barn, which is just like a terribly long sequence. So I'll point out there are definitely some things to appreciate here. This is a regional horror movie, and it was done like with a bunch of college kids as college credit, which is, I think, pretty remarkable what they're able to do with it. It does not look like it's shot by an amateur. I think Albright does a really nice job with the camera, the location setting, the location filming looks really good. And it's, like I said, it's a regional horror film. So I appreciate it and I respect it for that. The gore on this is actually really, really good, which is remarkable when you hear some of the special features on here, how the guy, like the college kid that was in charge of the special effects, like at one point he bowed out. He tried to bow out of it. He just didn't want to be a part of it anymore. I guess he didn't like what they were doing. But there was some discussion with his professor. And I think if I remember right from the special features, he ended up finishing the movie, but he didn't want any credit for it or anything. And so, you know, for someone who had no experience, presumably coming in, he did a really good job with this. So, you know, I think the acting is good. Like our main character here, he did like 2 movies, both directed by Albright and then nothing else. And though it's like a super strange and weird character, I think he does it really well. So power to him. Like it was arguably a difficult role to play, I would imagine, just because it's so eccentric, but I think he did a good job. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like there's not much here. It's almost, you know, starts off like it's going to be like a crazy slasher film and then turns into like a home invasion movie and then just stops. Like it slows down so much. So while this one wasn't for me, I'm still hoping that I have some Vinegar Syndrome releases over there that I'll actually enjoy, because it has been I haven't loved a lot of them, but I think like Jack Frost is one that immediately comes to mind that I really enjoyed, but outside of that, the others I just haven't loved. So anyway, with that said, Luther the Geek from 1989 is coming in at number 3, and I ended up giving this one 2 out of 5 stars. Coming in at number 2 from last month has to be the Asylum pick, AE Apocalypse Earth. This one's from 2013, directed by Thunder Levin. And so this on the back here, it says it's Avatar meets Predator. You guys know I love pointing out the poll quote, or the fake poll quote on the back. And this one is definitely not going to be for everybody. I feel like most people will watch this and say, well, that was a complete waste of my time. And honestly, like I understand that. There's not a whole lot going on here, but I enjoy Asylum movies, and this is another one that I think was decent, a little bit above average. Now, to be fair, it's not a great film by any stretch. It doesn't do a whole lot. I've already forgotten a lot of like the small pieces of this, but I remember like the major plot points here, and I thought it was decently done. So basically, we are following this group of refugees who, at the beginning of the film, they escaped from Earth. I think like Earth was under attack by a bunch of aliens, if I'm not mistaken, and they are fleeing. And so they all go into like this cryogenic sleep. Is that how you say that? Cryogenic? I think that's how you say that. And before, or as they're coming out of it, I guess, they realize, oh, like the ship is crashing. And so it ends up crash landing on this planet where they have no idea where they are. There are some like creatures, I guess. There's like another race. They look human, but they have like white skin. And then there are these invisible creatures as well. And so there's a couple different like creatures or races on this planet, which they have now crash landed on. And so it's a battle of, you know, what are these creatures? Where are we? How do we get back home? Because they are trying to get back home. It's now, I guess it would be like thousands of years later because of time travel things, or traveling through space like light years and so on and so forth. You know what I'm talking about. And so they're trying to get back home. While they're there, we have like, and this, so let me start off. This is pretty accurate. I would say Predators meets like Planet of the Apes more so than Avatar, but I haven't seen Avatar, so I don't, maybe that's more accurate. I don't know. But our main character here, I believe it was Adrian Paul. Yeah. Adrian Paul is our main character, and he's kind of like the Schwarzenegger character if you compare this to Predator. He's like our big hero, basically. This actually reminded me a little bit of Predators. If you've seen that one, like, what would that be? I guess the third sequel, or the second sequel, the third movie, where the group of prisoners are sent to this planet where the predators are living. It reminded me a little bit of that, given the premise, but it's not nearly as good as that. It doesn't quite go as far as that. So with this one, like the twists and turns that they produce are pretty much what you would expect. Like, you know, there was nothing that shocked me in this, which was a little bit disappointing, but like, I get it. It's an Asylum film, you know. The script is not great at all. The script is probably one of the lesser parts of this movie, but I don't know. It was just entertaining. I liked some of our characters. The acting is just completely all over the board. Like our main 3, I would say, because there's Richard Grieco, Adrian Paul, and then there's a female character that they meet on this planet who like has camouflage skin, and you know, she's this beautiful woman. So of course there's this like romance subplot here between Adrian Paul and her. It's just hilarious, but I think it works fine. Like I didn't cringe at it the entire time. I think it's okay. Is it believable? I mean, not really. It happens so fast, but it's like, it's there. It is what it is. And I totally forget what I was saying. Oh, the acting. Yeah. So I think the acting with those three are pretty good. And there are maybe two like main supporting cast characters I think that do a nice job as well, but the other supporting cast is just all over the board. And so that takes you out of a movie when you're watching it and you're like, yeah, like I'm getting into this a little bit, but then you just have some of these lines that are delivered in such a weird way. It just pulls you out of a movie. So that was a little bit disappointing. So I don't know, this one, like there's just not a whole lot of substance here, but still, I had a good time with it. I'm glad I watched it. This was one where I saw the trailer for this during I think it was during my 13 days of Halloween, where I reviewed 13 Asylum movies, 13 straight days. And so I was really excited to check it out, and I'm really glad I did, because I thought it was decent, a little bit above average, especially for an Asylum film. So not my favorite from them, but worth my time. It will not be worth many people's time, though. I'll be completely honest with you. A lot of you are going to watch it. If you were to watch it, you'll say, that sucked. Like, there was no point in watching this. And I respect that and I get that. So keep that in mind if you're considering watching this one. You have to be of that mindset. You have to appreciate the low budget aspects of Asylum in order to appreciate this one. I will say there is some ridiculous, it's awesome. I think it's awesome because it's bad Asylum CGI, but it is so cool with these like big giant, like, they almost look like scorpions. Like, it's ridiculous, but it's so cool. And a giant snake as well. Oh, that one just came back to me. It was so absurd. It's so absurd, but it was so much fun. So I liked this one well enough for what it was. So I ended up giving AE Apocalypse Earth from 2013 3 out of 5 stars. And yet again, Asylum trumps Vinegar Syndrome. So that means, of course, that coming in at number 1, my favorite watch of the month was my Criterion Collection pick, Repo Man from 1984, directed by Alex Cox. And for reference, this is spine number 654. And just look at this cover art. It is gorgeous. This is actually a really cool release, which I didn't even mention. Let me just say it real quick. The release from Vinegar Syndrome is actually done quite well. I liked the special features on there. Whenever you guys, at least for me, whenever I watch supplemental features, special features, whether it makes me like the movie more or not is debatable, but it always makes me appreciate and respect the movie more. So that's what happened with Luther the Geek. Like, I respect that movie a lot more now, knowing what it went through and how it came to be. But I still didn't love it. But here, this is just loaded with special features as well, which I've watched a lot of these. And I really wish Alex Cox did more film, because his filmography is quite limited, which blows my mind, because this was a remarkably crazy, bizarre, but fun movie. Like, this is such a good film. So, and it has a young Emilio Estevez, probably the youngest I've seen him in a film. But this is a crazy film. So basically, Emilio Estevez's character plays this like punk in 1980s LA. So first off, the soundtrack for this, phenomenal. If you are a punk fan, which I'm not necessarily a punk fan, but like I appreciate, I respect it. And for this film, it just works so well. So he is this like punk who decides, kind of stumbles on this job to become a repo man. And he is learning from the veterans on what to do and what not to do. And it's just insane, but mixed in with all of this. So the story is kind of him navigating his life through becoming a repo man, how that affects his like punk friends that he has, these criminals that he hangs out with normally, and things like that. And there is this sci-fi like alien thing weaved into the whole narrative that is just bonkers. I don't know. This is like, as I was getting ready to talk about this, I just kept thinking like, what am I going to say about this movie? Like, this is one that you genuinely have to sit down and experience to have any like idea of what you're getting into. I knew virtually nothing about this coming in other than it was a punk rock movie from the 1980s. And honestly, that's all you need to know. If that at all interests you, check this movie out. Watching LA through the 1980s, like filming on location, it was awesome. I absolutely loved that. It's the same thing like with, you see that in some 80s films with like New York. Scorsese has a lot of films that it's just like the grit and grime of New York, but this is kind of like, it's different because it's more of a sheen, but it's still gritty because it's LA, but it just feels different. And it's awesome. I love that aspect of this. I don't know. This was just like, amazing. I was blown away by this from kind of the get-go. There are moments in here that just took me by surprise as I was watching it. And like, those are things I don't want to spoil at all, because I think this is one that, again, you just have to watch it. It definitely experience this. I don't know if running out and spending, you know, $40 on the Criterion release or $20 during a flash sale or during the Barnes & Noble sale is the right answer for everybody, but if you can, I think this is one that everyone should experience at least once, just to see if this is something for you. It is oddball, out there. There's actually, at the very beginning of the movie, there was a scene that is actually a meme that I've seen for many years now and had no idea what it was, where there's a sheriff that opens the trunk of a car, because that's where like the sci-fi element comes in. Opens the trunk of the car and then just disintegrates, and we just see his boots left on the highway. And like, I've seen a meme for that forever. Had no idea it was from this movie. So when that happened, I was like, whoa. And I was instantly in, because I was like, oh, I recognize that. What else is there with this? And this is a movie I could watch again and again. Special features on this were great. Obviously, I didn't get through every single one of them, but I did get through a big chunk of them, and it was awesome. The interviews with Alex Cox are so much fun. They actually interview the man who created I think it was like the H-bomb, if I'm not mistaken. I'm forgetting, I don't see it right now offhand, but he was a man who like created the bomb, and talking about how basically, like, he was pro-violence. He's like, everything in the world is, you know, we achieved basically through violence. And it's just a fascinating interview with this, like, older gentleman who created this devastating bomb. It was so interesting. I don't know. This whole thing was awesome. So this was like the worst review of this film ever, and I apologize for that, but like, you need to see it. And if anything I said sounds like it might be something you might enjoy, you owe it to yourself to check out Repo Man. It is definitely lived up to the hype that I heard about it coming in. Absolutely a cult favorite now. So from 1984, Repo Man, I have to give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. All right, so those were my thoughts on these three from my March TBW. My letter and prompt game definitely helped out picking some movies that I wouldn't normally have put on, so very happy as always for that. Now, if you watched my TBW video for April, you'll know that my next video like this is going to be kind of all over the place, because the films that I chose were like not related at all. These at least were all boutique labels, kind of like sci-fi horror-ish. The next month's movies are just all over. So definitely check out that TBW video if you want to see what I'll be talking about next month. But in the meantime, I would love to hear what your thoughts are on these 3 movies. Did I get it wrong with Luther the Geek? You guys probably like this one more than I did. And Repo Man, are you a fan? Because this is a movie I think everyone should check out. It was just incredible. So I would love to hear your thoughts on these 3 films down in the comments below if you've seen them though. So please leave your thoughts down there. I always appreciate that. If you guys did enjoy this video though, please give it a like down below. That engagement really does help me out. And like I always say, I don't just talk movies, I talk all things media, be it books, movies, video games, graphic novels, manga. If it's media related, I'm interested in it. And if you are too, you might consider subscribing. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for today. I just want to say thank you all so much for watching, and I want to encourage you to consume some media today. I'll catch you next time.